Who's in sales? Every one of us, in every function, in every company, in every industry, large company or small, we all have clients and we're all salespeople. By that we mean we all need, at least from time to time, to convince, that is, sell, someone on an idea or get them to agree to do something for us. That something can range from actually buying your product, to giving you a promotion, to agreeing to help you on a project, or completing an assignment that you've been given or you've given out. In this episode, we'll talk about how to be an outstanding salesperson regardless of what you're selling. Hi, I'm Rick Kendall.
And I'm Fred Ball.
Welcome to Management Mastery. The purpose of these podcasts is to share what each of us has learned about good and bad management in our combined over 40 years of experience, both as managers and executive coaches. During that time, we've coached managers at every level in companies from Fortune 100s to brand new startups in all major businesses, including nonprofits, government, and education. So whether you're just starting in your first management position or are an experienced manager looking to strengthen your management skills, we know our podcast will be valuable to you.
So, who are the best salespeople in your organization? What makes them good at what they do? In our careers, we have wondered why some people who seem so different were successful salespeople. Some were women, some were men, some were very intelligent, while others were street smart. Some were aggressive, and others laid back. There seemed to be no common denominator except that all had internalized an old sales adage. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. We advise our clients that the best salespeople display 6 qualities that were shared with us by a great salesperson.
Well, first of all, great salespeople care about people and about building strong relationships. And that starts with your first meeting with a new person. You need to pay attention to everything about them, from their handshake to how they dress, to the amount of eye contact, their self-confidence, and even their apparent level of physical fitness.
It's critical that you present yourself in the best possible manner, that you smile, focus your eye contact on the other person. Sit still and let the other person finish what they were saying without interruption, and give the other person time to respond. Try to assess their behavioral traits and comfort in building a relationship so you can make them more comfortable with you.
And second, a good salesperson tries to see the world through the client's eyes. So no matter how much information you've collected before you meet, don't assume you know their needs.
Let the client tell you their direction, goals, and objectives. And as Rick can tell you, so many times as salespeople, we make mistakes because we assume that we know their needs, when in fact we don't. You want to learn about the environmental climate in which they're working. What is their reality? You want to ask questions to clarify your understanding of what they are saying. In short, this means a great salesperson is a good listener rather than a great talker. And that point comes back again and again and again. Active listening is both listening and responding in a way that improves mutual understanding.
Oh, that is so true. I worked with a sales guy. He was effective, but I think he probably didn't do as well as he thought he did. And one of the reasons was because he would just talk, and he believed that, if you made it so the client couldn't respond, then you were doing a good job. and I think that a lot of times he fell short because the client just he wasn't hearing what the client really wanted. So focus is critical, and despite the fact that a few of us have had training, it's possible to practice these skills to be an outstanding listener. Show you're listening by restating what the other person says and reflect on what the client is feeling. Ask open-ended questions like, how did you feel about that? Why do you say that? What else can you tell me? Things like that, so you get as much information as you can from the client, and you're listening to for the clues to tell you how to best service that client.
I think what you have to do from a coaching standpoint is to try and do a little bit of self-analysis. Some people are prone to do the talking. Other people are prone to do listening. Sometimes we look at the extrovert and say, oh, that person's out in front and so forth. Yeah, well, they may also, just as Rick said, be talking too much. Where the introverted person may be listening more and analyzing what the person is saying, and then comes back with a really pertinent question or a really pertinent point. And we can't state enough about the good listening. So if you feel that you could be better at listening, you need to practice that, and you can actually do it with with some people who you're really comfortable with, and take on a specific issue that you need to practice, or a topic that you need to talk with them, and then have practice. And at the end, let them give you feedback. In some cases, it can be as simple as, well, okay, so what percentage of the time did you talk? What percentage of the time can I talk? You can have a third person literally, chart the amount of time that each one of you talk. But that's a part of it. But then, as Rick said, it's more than that. It's being able to really listen, understand what the other person said, either state it back to them or ask a question about it. But that listening is absolutely critical to being a great salesperson.
Oh yeah, and I think it's a good idea if you've got colleagues with you, and you're the lead person in the meeting, afterwards to ask them in a very open way, how did I do? What did I miss anything? What do you think the client was saying, etc.? I mean, so you get feedback from third parties who can, point out things you may have missed about how you did.
That's absolutely a very good point. When I've been to sales schools a couple of times, and almost always in the sales schools, they mention that exactly what Rick said. As a good way to test yourself is to have the person with you give you feedback. Rick, one of the things that we need to talk about is that there are some people who view themselves as salespeople, even if they're not in a sales role, and there are some people who are much shyer about speaking out. So I think we should talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, and I think there's, a lot of people have this bad image of quote unquote a salesperson. Oh, I'm not a salesperson. They think that's means you're pushy and aggressive and all of that, as opposed to being confident in your competence. And you're right. There are people who just are shy or don't feel that they have enough to contribute or that they know enough or whatever, but they do.
Yeah, and as a manager, you have to be in a sales role some of the time. So if it's not something that you're comfortable with right off the bat, you need to get comfortable with it, because it's one of those sets of skills that you really need to have.
Oh yeah, and I think the other part of that is in developing your staff, and we've talked about the importance of developing your staff. especially now that there's a lot of remote work, and some people feel I'm not going to advance in my career by being remote. But in just developing your staff, you'll have people who are very competent, who know a lot, but are very shy and are unwilling to speak out. They don't want to be in front of a group. That terrifies them. And as a manager, you need to do what you can to encourage them, to build their confidence, and let them know, give them positive feedback, and put them in gradually in situations where they can express themselves, and hopefully they get positive feedback from doing that, and that builds their confidence.
And in some cases, you as the manager are not totally comfortable in the sales role. And there are a whole series of steps that you can take. First of all, every time you run a staff meeting, you're going to be in a sales role, and you want to be careful not to talk too much. But if you need to encourage your people to move in a certain direction in that sales meeting, then you're clearly in a sales role. You may also have opportunities to speak. You'll be speaking obviously with your boss and senior management, and so there are opportunities to when you're expressing how your department is doing and what you could be doing more. You're in a sales role. And then if you're in a conference and you're a presenter in the conference, each time that you do these things, you become more comfortable.
Oh, yeah, no, practice does make perfect in that situation. There's an interesting irony because in my experience, some people who are not as confident when they're in front of a group, no matter what the group is, rather than clamming up, they won't shut up. And so their nervousness expresses itself by just, running off at the mouth. And they need to get the feedback that, you need to hold back a little bit.
That's actually absolutely true. And the same thing when you're doing your staff meeting. Doesn't mean that you go into the staff meeting and you talk 100% of the time at all. It means that when you do have something to say, you're saying it in a way that it makes sense. And if you're trying to convince people to move in a certain direction, that it's good conversation.
Yes, exactly. And these are skills that you can develop over time, hopefully. And as a manager, you want to help your staff members to develop those skills, and hopefully your boss will give you feedback, but ask for it. How did I do in my presentation? What would you have had me do differently? Seek feedback from people who you respect when you're presenting, and give that feedback to your staff when they're presenting, so that you build their confidence.
That's true, and one of the ways that you can do it is you can ask for feedback from people that you're comfortable with in terms of your presentation, your sales ability, your ability to convince people, and then get those people to give you good feedback as to what went well and what you could do better. Above all, you need to have and show a genuine interest in solving the client's needs. After listening, the art of questioning is one of the salesperson's key skills. You want to ask questions and get clarification until you fully understand the client's needs.
And you want to practice, just framing an issue, expressing it in a different way, trying to get a different perspective on it, and then devise other possible solutions to the problem, just to test them out, even if it's just in your own head. But often you can do it with the client, and you get a better understanding of what the parameters of the problem are. Even if they say, no, that's not going to work, here's why, you'll learn more. And express your willingness to bore down through research and data analysis to narrow the list of possible solutions.
The example that Rick mentioned before, where if you're with a second salesperson and you have them give you feedback, you want to get feedback from them not only as to your ability to listen, and stay focused in that listening, but also whether you ask good questions and the two of you can react together to say, did we ask the right questions? And if not, what would we do the next time? It's then important that you provide the specific product or service that the customer needs. You want to work with the client to select the best option for meeting their needs. Remember, ultimately, this is the client's call. One last thing, confirm your findings to be sure you have it right. Present your abilities to solve the need or needs in a clear, crisp, straightforward manner. And answer the specific need, and don't try to add additional services at that time.
Yeah, once a sale is made, the great salesperson gives the extra mile for the customer. It's important that you provide the proper amount of follow-up and support, including any additional information that may be required.
In this episode, we hope you have seen that every one of us, in every function, in every company, in every industry, large company or small, we all have clients and we are all salespeople. Whether you consider yourself a salesperson or not, we all have clients and we all need to satisfy the needs of those clients. When you are interacting with your clients and satisfying those needs, you are acting in a sales role. Behaving as a successful salesperson will help you to achieve success.
We hope you have found this podcast useful and will come back again for more management mastery. If you have any comments about this or any of our episodes, or would like to find out more about our other services, including one-on-one coaching and group seminars for managers, visit our website at careercoachclass.com. Thanks for listening.